Okay, so this guy was literally caught on camera sprinting away from the mob he helped incite on January 6th. The same guy who then sold coffee mugs of his fist pump looked a sitting attorney general in the eye and told him he belongs in jail. And somehow, the most unbelievable part of this story isn't the guy giving the lecture. It's that there's actually a real scandal underneath all the theater that the lecturer's own party is actively making harder to prosecute. So here's what happened. At a Senate Homeland Security Committee hearing this past Thursday, Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri went after Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison over the Feeding Our Future scandal, the largest COVID-era fraud case in the country, where roughly $250 million in federal child nutrition money was stolen. Hawley had poster boards, audio transcripts, campaign finance records, and he was locked in, and Ellison, to put it charitably, was not ready for this moment. What followed was one of the most heated exchanges in a Senate hearing room in recent memory. As always, let's watch this hearing, and I have a breakdown for you at the end.
Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ellison, let me start with you. You're the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. Do I have that correct? That's a yes?
Sir, you're aware of my job. You know the answer to that.
You're not going to answer my questions? Are we going to start this way? Are you the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, yes or no?
You know the answer.
Mr. Ellison, you're in my courtroom now. You're under oath. So I suggest that you answer my questions. You the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Minnesota, yes or no? Let's try another question. Are you familiar with the $9 billion in historic fraud out of your state, including the $250 million in the Feeding Our Future program alone? You familiar with that? Don't turn to the pages in your book to get your potted answers. Are you familiar with it? Yes or no?
Yes, I am familiar with it.
Very familiar, aren't you? Because the people who ran the Feeding Our Futures program came to you in your official office in the state capitol December 11th, 2021, and asked for your help in getting investigators off their backs. They complained to you for upwards of an hour about state investigators going after them, and they begged you to help them, and you agreed to it, amazingly. And we know you did.
That's not
because
true.
It's all caught on tape.
Yeah,
Every single sentence is caught on tape. Here's what you said. Let's take a look.
Obviously, you
said, it's not a question. You said to them, send me the names of all these folks who are investigating them. You said to them, send me their names. And I'll take that list, and I'll call the person over at Education who is investigating them and say, what's going on? Why am I getting these complaints? Then you went on to say, I already have my team working on this. What day should we get together to discuss it again? You made pledge after pledge to them. You said, we've got to make sure this guy who's investigating them stops it. You said, you have my attention. I'm concerned about this. You said, let's go fight these people, meaning the people who were investigating the fraud. Why'd you do it? Why'd you help them?
Are you going to let me answer?
Please, we're all ears.
So first of all, you're cherry picking quotes out of there.
Why did you help them?
I thought you were going to let me answer.
Why did you help them?
Are you going to let me answer?
Why did you help them?
You let me answer and I'll answer you.
Tell the truth and I'll let you answer.
I will tell the truth.
Good.
Let's do that.
That'd be a nice change. Why'd you help them?
Now see, Mr. Chairman, I didn't come here to be insulted. I came here voluntarily.
You came here for the truth. Let's have it. Why did you help them? The quotes are here. They're in black and white, and every member of this audience can listen to the recording. It's 54 minutes long. It's all in public. You can Google it right now and listen to it.
And listen to it all.
Why'd you help them?
First of all, I didn't help them.
You did help them.
No, I did not. I certainly didn't.
You're saying you didn't do anything for them. You didn't.
Well, wait a minute.
I already have my team working on this again. That's not you?
I have my team assisted with the information that led to the prosecution and conviction of these people.
No, you didn't. You didn't lift a finger to prosecute them. No, you did not. You didn't lift a finger to prosecute them.
Federal prosecution.
You had, BS. You had whistleblowers come to you as early as 2019.
You're the one talking BS.
Hey, listen, it's my time.
Doesn't know what you're talking about, sir.
No, sir. You now have encountered the truth and you don't like it. Why'd you take their money? Why'd you take their money?
I didn't.
You took $10,000.
No, that's a false statement.
$10,000 9 days after the meeting.
False statement.
You took $10,000. Here's what happened. They went to your office.
They
solicited money from you. They solicited help from you.
That's also wrong.
They came to your office. It was your official office. You met with them for 54 minutes.
No, they didn't.
They asked you for help. You pledged it to them, and they talked repeatedly about money. In fact, it's all they talked about.
That's a lie.
Money, 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 money. They said, we will put our dollars in the right place. We will support candidates that will fight to protect our interests. You replied, that's right. They said, if you are securing your donor base and securing your power base, you can act the way you want. You replied, money is freedom. They said the amount of money circulating, I'm reading the transcript, the amount of money circulating in our community today is powerful, and we haven't realizing it in a meaningful way. And you said, give me the specifics. And 9 days later, you took $10,000 from people who were then indicted. It's in your reports. Why'd you do it?
Sir,
was it worth it?
You know what? This is a theatrical performance.
This is the truth. This is what accountability looks like, of which you've had none. You helped fraudsters defraud your state and this government of $9 billion, and you got a fat campaign contribution out of it. You ought to be indicted.
True.
Well, that's the truth.
I think we've made the point. Let's keep the tenor just
for the record.
I'll ask how I want to.
He's lying, and that's the truth.
Oh no, this is all on the record, sir. Did you bother Did you bother to investigate where the money that you facilitated their fraud for, where it went? Do you know where it went, what it was used for, the fraudulent money? I do, because we just heard testimony about it yesterday.
Because we were key players in the
hundreds of millions of dollars to terrorist groups, to transnational criminal organizations, to the drug trade, to drug trafficking, to child trafficking. And you took $10,000
That's a lie.
And helped them do it. You know, the other thing is, whistleblowers came to you as early as 2019. Let's look. As early as 2019, whistleblower. Don't talk over me. As early as 2019, it's my hearing, pal. As early as 2019.
Don't call me
whistleblowers came to, well, I should call you prisoner because you ought to be in jail.
Well, we'll see what you can do.
In 2019, whistleblowers came to you in your office and referred to you fraud allegations from Feeding Our Futures, and you blew them off. Listen, your own state newspaper investigated it. The Minnesota Star Tribune, the Partners in Nutrition, brought its concerns to the Attorney General's office in 2018 and in 2019, and you did nothing. You did nothing for years. The only action you took is, once all these fraudsters came to your office and asked you to get involved and offered you money, then you got involved. Then you took the money, and then you got involved.
They did not come to my office. You're completely wrong about that.
You met with them for 54 minutes, and you took $10,000, and they also gave your family money. They gave your family thousands of dollars in campaign contributions in addition to what they gave
false
you.
Statement.
Let's put
this is completely untrue.
The New York Post.
Yeah, we know the New York Post.
Minnesota Keith Ellison, AG, accepted campaign donations from individuals linked to the $250 million COVID fraud scheme after they were in your office. The donations came on December 20th.
Sir,
you met with them on December the 11th, and on January 20th, the FBI knocked over their headquarters.
No.
That's the sequence of events here.
No, it's not.
You've been right at the center of this fraud thing from the beginning, and you've enabled it. And sir, you should resign.
And sir, you should resign. I was thinking the same thing about you.
Should resign.
I was thinking the exact same thing about you.
I'm sure after encountering this truth, you are, because it hurts to have accountability, doesn't it?
Because after this parade of lies and presentation, I think you should be ashamed for misrepresentation.
Time has expired. Senator Moreno.
Unexpected next witness. You're expecting somebody on the other side.
Oh, should I go on to Blumenthal?
So let me ask.
Excuse me. I made a mistake. I'm so good it is.
Okay, so if you're watching that and your brain is kind of short-circuiting because you're not sure who to be angry at both of them. Because here's what makes this story so genuinely maddening. Both of these men have real problems, and neither one of them wants you to notice the others. So let me give you the information that clip alone doesn't provide, because there's a lot. And I want to be very clear up front. I'm not going to protect either one of these guys. If the evidence is bad, I'm going to tell you it's bad. Party affiliation doesn't get you a discount here. First, the fraud itself. This is not some minor bookkeeping scandal. According to the FBI, the Feeding Our Future nonprofit claimed to operate nearly 300 meal sites, purporting to have served over 90 million meals in less than 2 years. One site that the FBI surveilled, which claimed to serve 6,000 meals per day, actually averaged about 40 visitors. Federal prosecutors say roughly 3% of the funding was actually spent on food. The rest went to luxury cars, real estate, jewelry, a beach resort in Kenya, and according to testimony at the hearing, potentially to transnational criminal organizations. Former Attorney General Merrick Garland called it the largest pandemic-related fraud in the country. As of now, 78 people have been indicted, and more than 50 have been convicted. So this isn't manufactured outrage. This is $250 million stolen from a program designed to feed hungry children during a pandemic. That's real. Now, Keith Ellison. And I need you to really hear this part, because I know some of you watching this are going to want to dismiss what I'm about to say because it's coming from Josh Hawley's hearing. Forget Josh Hawley for a minute. Forget the poster boards. Just look at what the evidence actually shows, because it is bad. The 54-minute recording that Hawley referenced in the hearing, it's real. It was published by the Center of the American Experiment and has been reported on by the Pioneer Press, the Washington Free Beacon, News Nation, the Daily Signal, and others. Ellison has never denied its authenticity, and what it shows is not a man who passively took a routine meeting. It shows the top law enforcement officer of the state of Minnesota actively coaching people who were, at that very moment, stealing $250 million from children, coaching them on how to fight back against the agencies trying to stop them. Let me walk you through what is actually on this tape, because the details matter. On December 11th, 2021, Ellison met in what appears to have been his official government office with a group of individuals, several of whom were later indicted and convicted in the Feeding Our Future fraud. According to the Center of the American Experiment's analysis of the recording and reporting from the Washington Free Beacon, the attendees explicitly referenced Feeding Our Future by name, and Ellison responded, "I've heard that name." The attendees complained that state agencies, particularly the Minnesota Department of Education, were scrutinizing their operations and blocking their payments. They described this oversight as racist, xenophobic, and Islamophobic. And here's what Ellison did with that information. And please understand, this is on tape. He called state agency oversight piddly, stupid stuff running small people out of business. He said, Walsh agrees with me that this piddly, stupid stuff running small people out of business is terrible. He offered to call MDE directly to demand some explanations and said, this is a direct quote, "Just getting the inquiry from the AG is sometimes enough to make people knock it off." And then at the 44-minute mark, he said, "Of course I'm here to help." And at the 45-minute mark, "Let's just go fight these people." I need you to understand what these people means in that sentence. These people were the state agencies, including his own client, the Minnesota Department of Education, that were trying to slow down payments to Feeding Our Future because they suspected fraud. The agencies that were right. The agencies whose suspicions were later confirmed by the FBI, which found that 97% of the money was being stolen. Ellison, the Attorney General, the state's top law enforcement officer, whose office was at that time literally MDE's lawyer. His job was to represent and defend MDE in court, was promising to use his power to fight the agencies trying to stop the fraud on behalf of the people committing it. As policy fellow Bill Glahn, who first published the recording, put it, he's pledging his support to the plaintiffs while he's representing the defendants. That's not just a bad look. That is a potential ethics violation by the sitting Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, because you are not allowed to promise to fight your own client on behalf of the people suing them. That's not how being a lawyer works. And it gets worse, because during this same meeting, attendees discussed political fundraising. They talked about putting our dollars in the right place and supporting candidates that will fight to protect our interests. Ellison responded, "That's right." Now, to be fair, Ellison also said on the tape, "I'm not here because I think it's going to help my re-election." But 9 days later, 9 days according to publicly filed donation records confirmed by multiple outlets, Ellison's campaign accepted 4 contributions totaling $10,000, 4 max donations of $2,500 each from individuals tied to Feeding Our Future. Donor number 1, Gandhi Muhammad, later indicted on federal fraud and bribery charges. And it wasn't just Keith Ellison. According to the New York Post, his son, Minneapolis City Councilman Jeremiah Ellison, also received donations from individuals later indicted in the case, including from Salim Saeed, Ikram Mohammed, and others connected to Feeding Our Future. You say, "I'm not here for the money" on a Saturday, and by the following Monday, $10,000 shows up from the people in that room. That's not a coincidence that you get to wave away with an op-ed. And then there are the lies. And I'm using that word deliberately, because at this point, the public record leaves no other option. Ellison has made 3 statements about this meeting that cannot all be true, and at least 2 of them are provably false. Statement 1 on the tape, December 2021. At the 30-minute mark, Ellison says, "This is the first I'm really hearing about it." At the 37-minute mark, "This has not come to my attention until now." Statement 2, Ellison's official office press release, September 26, 2022. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and his office have been deeply involved for 2 years in holding Feeding Our Future accountable. His spokesperson, John Stiles, said, "For 2 solid years, Attorney General Ellison's office has been holding Feeding Our Future accountable. Statement 3. Ellison Star Tribune op-ed. April 2025. He took a meeting in good faith with people I didn't know and was not aware of the FBI investigation. Do the math. 2 years back from September 2022 is September 2020. If Ellison's office was deeply involved for 2 years in holding Feeding Our Future accountable, that means he was involved before the December 2021 meeting, which means he lied on the tape when he said, "This is the first I'm really hearing about it." But if he told the truth on the tape, if December 2021 really was the first he'd heard of it, then he lied to the public in September 2022 when he claimed 2 years of involvement, presumably to take credit for the FBI's work after indictments dropped. Either way, Keith Ellison lied. The only question is which time. And when he sat in that Senate hearing room and told Josh Hawley that these were false statements, he never not once explained how to make those 3 statements fit together. Because you can't. Now, to be clear about what I am and am not saying, Keith Ellison has not been charged with a crime. There is no evidence that he knew about the fraud itself or participated in stealing the money. But what the tape shows, and this is not spin, this is what is on the recording, is the state's top law enforcement officer meeting with active fraudsters in his government office, calling the state agencies trying to stop the fraud piddly, stupid, promising to use the power of his office to fight those agencies on the fraudsters' behalf, nodding along while they talked about donating to politicians who'd protect them, accepting $10,000 from them 9 days later, and then lying about the timeline in at least 2 different directions depending on what was politically convenient. If that doesn't deserve a real investigation by someone outside his office and outside Hawley's committee, someone with no skin in the game, then the word accountability doesn't mean anything. And Minnesotans, regardless of party, deserve to know the truth. Now, Josh Hawley. And this is critical because none of what I just said makes Josh Hawley a credible messenger on accountability. This is a man who, according to Capitol Police testimony played at the January 6th committee hearing, riled up the crowd with his fist pump that morning, and was then captured on security camera running through Senate hallways to escape the very mob he encouraged, footage that literally made the hearing room burst into laughter. He then sold merchandise of the fist pump. He called the January 6th committee a joke and political theater. And now he's doing poster boards and dramatic reveals as though he's hosting a true crime documentary. And here's the part that should make your blood boil, because this is the part that Josh Hawley will absolutely never mention. The lead federal prosecutor on the Feeding Our Future case, the guy who actually secured the convictions, who actually built the fraud investigation that brought down these criminals, his name is Joe Thompson. According to CBS News, NPR, and Bloomberg Law, Thompson resigned in January 2026, along with at least 5 other federal prosecutors from the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office. Why? Because the Trump administration's Department of Justice pressured them to investigate the widow of Renee Good, a woman shot and killed by an ICE agent, rather than investigate the agent who pulled the trigger. Law professor Mark Osler described the resignations as a very big blow to the Feeding Our Future prosecution. Additional prosecutors followed in February. The man who was supposed to take over fraud prosecution from Thompson, Dan Bobbier, also resigned. So the administration, whose senator is grandstanding about fraud accountability, drove out the prosecutors who were actually delivering it. That is the strategy here. Hawley wants the clip. He wants the "you should be in jail" soundbite. What he does not want is for you to notice that his own party's Justice Department is sabotaging the prosecution of the very fraud he's screaming about. And that's the language you should use when explaining this to people. A real scandal is being exploited for political theater by a senator whose own administration undermined the prosecutors who were solving it, while the attorney general, who should have been protecting the public, was promising to fight the agencies that were trying to do exactly that. So what does this actually mean going forward? For the people directly affected, which, by the way, is every American taxpayer, but especially the children in Minnesota who were supposed to be getting meals during a pandemic and instead got nothing while criminals drove off in luxury cars, the stakes are enormous. Because with Thompson gone and more than a dozen prosecutors now departed from the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office, the remaining Feeding Our Future trials are in jeopardy. There are still defendants awaiting trial. Only about $75 million of the $250 million has been recovered. The government estimated in January 2026 that total fraud may exceed $350 million. Imagine your mechanic stealing your car, and then the cop who caught him gets fired for unrelated reasons, and the case just falls apart. That's essentially what's happening here, except it's $250 million and it involves children's food. For institutions, this is a masterclass in how every level of the system failed these kids. The Minnesota State Auditor's Office already found that the fraud wasn't just the result of sophisticated criminals, it was a systemic failure of state oversight. State agencies were afraid to act because Feeding Our Future threatened to accuse them of racial discrimination if they cut off payments, and as the tape shows, the state's own attorney general was co-signing that exact playbook, calling legitimate oversight piddly, stupid stuff, and promising to pressure the agencies on the fraudsters' behalf. A Ramsey County judge even held the Department of Education in contempt for processing applications too slowly. So the agencies trying to pump the brakes were getting hit from every direction, from the fraudsters threatening racism accusations, from a judge holding them in contempt, and from the attorney general who was supposed to be their lawyer promising to fight them. And now, instead of fixing any of those systemic failures, what we're getting is a senator yelling at an attorney general for a viral clip, while the entire federal team that was actually putting these people in prison falls apart behind both of them. And for what? Not for justice, because the people delivering justice just quit. Not for the children who were defrauded, because no one in that hearing room proposed a single policy to prevent this from happening again. Not for accountability, because Ellison still hasn't explained which of his 3 contradictory statements was the lie, and Hawley still hasn't said a word about why his party's DOJ drove out the prosecutors. For a clip, for a soundbite, for the same guy who sold coffee mugs of himself cheering on an insurrection, yelling at the same guy who took $10,000 from convicted fraudsters, and neither one of them has any interest in you finding out what the other one actually did. Josh Hawley doesn't want to fix fraud. Keith Ellison doesn't want to explain that tape. And $250 million in children's food money is gone. I'm sure those are all just oversights. So where do things stand right now? Ellison remains Minnesota's attorney general. He has not been charged with anything. He maintains he did nothing wrong and says he returned donations from anyone connected to Feeding Our Future once he became aware of the connections. Though the word once is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, given that the donations arrived 9 days after a meeting where fundraising was openly discussed. Hawley has introduced legislation to create a new inspector general to oversee child assistance programs, which, credit where it's due, is an actual policy proposal. But the prosecutors who were actually putting fraudsters in prison are gone. Here's my bottom line, and I want to be direct. Keith Ellison owes the people of Minnesota a real explanation, not an op-ed, not a spokesperson statement, a real answer, under oath, on camera, where lying has consequences, what happened in that room, why he promised to fight the agencies trying to stop fraud on behalf of the people committing it, why $10,000 showed up 9 days later, and which of his 3 contradictory public statements was the lie. If he's innocent of wrongdoing, an independent investigation clears his name. If he's not, Minnesotans deserve to know that too. The tape exists. It's 54 minutes long. It speaks for itself. And I took a meeting in good faith with people I didn't know. Doesn't cut it when you're on the recording saying, I've heard that name and let's go fight these people. And Josh Hawley, if he actually cared about accountability and wasn't just performing it for the camera, he'd be asking why the Trump DOJ drove out the lead prosecutor who was putting these people in prison. He'd be holding hearings about why Joe Thompson resigned. He'd be demanding answers about why Dan Bobier, Thompson's successor on fraud cases, also walked out the door. But he's not asking those questions, because those questions lead to his own party. So instead, he holds up a poster board and yells at Keith Ellison, who, to be clear, absolutely deserves to be yelled at, but yelling is not accountability. Indictments are accountability. Convictions are accountability. And the people who were delivering both just quit because of Josh Hawley's administration. Maybe he should make a poster board about that. He could put it right next to the coffee mug. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video and drop a comment with your thoughts. I read more of them than you might think. Share this with someone who needs the full context, not just the headlines. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you never miss future videos. And of course, subscribe for more. Thanks so much for watching.